Umamusume is a game that's definitely showing its age at this point. The game is very, very old, and compared to the other games in the gacha market, is not the most enticing game for many players, especially many players in our side of the world, right? So when I say our side, I mean like the Western side, right? Now, when we look at a game like Umamusume, we have to wonder, how does the game make as much revenue as it does? The game is, well, let's be honest here, graphically just not up to date compared to the other games that are currently in the gacha market, and the gameplay is also not up to date with the current gacha meta. So it's a game that, like I said, is definitely showing its age. It's an old school gacha, long story short. But the revenue it rakes in is extremely high despite all of those shortcomings of the game. Now, the game is first and foremost a character collecting game. Character collecting game in the form of a game like, for instance, I want to say Dragon Ball Dokkan Battle. But Dragon Ball Dokkan Battle is also known for its gameplay to an extent, because the power-ups and the fights are actually pretty darn hype with the animations that game does have. And Umamusume is a game I can kind of compare that one to, because both games kind of function the same to an extent, and Dragon Ball Dokkan Battle is a game that is also very, very old. Much older than Umamusume. I remember playing this game literally in middle school, which, again, I am well out of high school now, so yeah, you can do the math there. Now, Umamusume is a game that is not free-to-play friendly, and the easiest way to tell this is by looking at the revenue the game makes each and every single month. With a game making as much revenue as it's making, while also being a game that doesn't look the best and not up to date to the current standard of gacha, yeah, there's no telling that this game is going to be a mess for free-to-play players when the game does release. Now, the revenue this game brought in the previous month is $9 million just in the JP region alone. That is a massive amount of money in just one select region for a game that, again, has no gameplay and is not up to the current standard of gacha games, most like Dokkan Battle. Now, when I played Dokkan Battle, for me, when I played for quite some time. I played on and off for a long period of time, but I remember playing that game, and whenever I hopped in, there would be like an event or festival going on, and I would just roll with a new character and clear content, so on and so forth. So it was a game that you can easily hop back into and constantly play on, off, on, off. Now, I don't know if Umamusume is going to be the same way, which also does help with the whether or not the game is free-to-play friendly, if that makes sense. Now, I'm sure that the game is not a hard, complex game whatsoever, but that's very high revenue for a game that, again, is old. And in previous months, the revenue was even higher. Question, how free-to-play friendly is Umamusume? I just watched a YouTube short on how bad Umamusume gacha is. Uh-oh. So I assume you must skip banners only pull when you want the 3 stars. And also, hitting the 200 pity is the best way to get the character due to how big the gacha is. So there is a ton of characters in the gacha for S rank or 3-star characters. Like, there's a ton of characters in the pool. So there's a good chance you're going to get a character you weren't intending to get. The rate-up character has a higher chance of course, getting pulled from that banner, but there's so many flipping characters that your chance of getting the other characters is definitely higher. There's a ton of characters in the game currently, like a ton. I mean, remember, this is a very old game. Pity is very difficult to get unless you play during an anniversary event, in which case they drop a crap ton of carrots. There is the whole limit break mechanic, which does require duplicate copies of a support to fully utilize it. So it'll be rough in the beginning if you're pushing for leaderboards. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Dokkan Battle when I played. I would always join in the events and the anniversaries whenever they had those festivals, and I would just play the game around that point in time, try to snipe the on-banner character. But there was also a lot of characters in that game as well, so your chances of getting the rate-up festival or event character was also pretty darn low. Compared to other games by Psy Games, a bit more harsh. Compared to other non-Psy Games gacha games, generous. That's interesting. Because if we compare that to any game in the gacha market, what do we mean by that? Now, other games have 50-50. Now, I don't know if they're insinuating gacha games that are currently with the 50-50 monetization model, like Genshin, Wuthering Waves, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, used to be Snowbreak Containment Zone, Girls Frontline 2 has it, so on and so forth. Any game that has the 50-50 gacha system. Did Arknights Infield have it? is after the first 5-star. Currently, it could change, but it's after the first 5-star. Then each subsequent 5-star is like a 50-50 on that banner, right? So maybe that's what they're referencing, or maybe they're referencing other gacha games such as Dokkan Battle, talking about Legends, and so on and so forth. Just other games in the current gacha market. Nikkei got its victory, which also does have a 200 pity for their characters. I do know that Nikkei is more generous though, because they do tend to give out a ton of pulls, even just in general. I remember playing that game, I never really had to spend any money at all. If I did spend money, it was probably for a gacha skin, which is horrible waste of money, mind you. But yeah, maybe they're referencing that game. I have no idea. Or maybe they're referencing the 50-50 games in the gacha market. Who knows? If you want to enjoy the story events, it's okay. If you want to see yourself in leaderboards, not so much. But that's more or less in every gacha PvP/leaderboards. Now, I wonder how prevalent the PvP is going to be in this game, because the PvP can determine whether or not, like, if the PvP and being in the top of the leaderboard is important to the point where, like, if you are at the top of the leaderboard, you get more pool currency, or you get just more currency in general for account progression, then maybe it becomes a little bit like, you know, like a red flag. But it depends on how heavily pushed PvP is in this game. But I do understand that it is a game that obviously is more competitive in nature just by default because of how the anime is. The anime is a competitive environment, right? You have horse girls racing each other. Doesn't get any more competitive than that. But I do wonder how the game portrays that side of the anime, and how prevalent is going to be when it comes to going against other players. We'll see. It's super rough even early if your goal isn't that high. Just get your favorite horse, high campaign score, and do minimum objective in PvP. Okay, so it being super rough early is actually a little bit disappointing. Because, I mean, the thing is like, early on is where the games usually shower you with the most pulls. So, like, early in any gacha game, you'll get the most pulls you'll get pretty much just on your account. And then later on, the game will slowly give you less and less pulls. Kind of like a Theory Restart is right now. I remember, you know, if you watched any of the Theory Restart videos I have on the channel, I was pulling pity every single day for a week straight. And after that week, the pulls I got in the game dropped off drastically. I mean, I was barely scraping 1 to 2 pulls a day. It was harsh. But it seems like this game doesn't have that initial burst of pulls that the game, or premium currency the game gives you, like in typical gacha games. It's a little bit concerning, especially if you are looking to like reroll. I mean, it seems like rerolling is going to probably be the most optimal thing to do, because you're going to have to save really high regardless for pity. So we'll see what banner character they have when the game does launch for global. Not free to play friendly, that others are saying. Hate to say it, but I love the game, but man, you have to save for months to guarantee a character you want, because pity is 200 and no chance 50-50. It basically pray as hard as you can. Ooh, but the game is still fun though. I will still enjoy it. It's like Madoka Magica for me, right? The Magic Zedra, I mean, the game was just, I'm be honest, the game was just bad, right? The game was bad. It was enjoyable in the beginning, but then once you start to get to like the mid to late game, then the game starts to fall off drastically, especially when you hit that initial first pity on the banner. Your pool currency, like gem currency, gem income, whatever you want to call it, over time is horrendous, like absolutely horrible. So I honestly am hoping that the game Umamusume is not like that. I will still enjoy the IP, but if the gacha is anywhere like it was in Magic Exedra, oh my goodness, I'm going to be very disappointed. I feel like I've just been jumping from game to game as of recently, because every game has just been feeling like crap recently. I mean, maybe it's just me, but every single game I decide to try out that's not Honkai Star just feels like crap. But I still love the IP for animes, even if the game does suck. Look at Black Clover. Still love the IP. Now, I remember seeing a comment like this before, like some random post way back when, and it was about a game called like Project Sekai or something, I think it was. And apparently that game also has really rough pity, and you have to constantly like save, because trying to hit a pity on the banner is really, really rough. So maybe this game does follow that same like old school gacha model mostly games that are popular in JP typically have that old school gacha model where they want you to essentially save for a very, very long time to guarantee that specific character. And if you want anything else, you have to spend money. Like they're trying to siphon as much money as they can out of you. Oh man. If we're talking from a competitive perspective, you can compete, just not going to perform super well on the highest level. Relatively speaking, it shouldn't be a hit to your enjoyment. I think for most people, it probably will be a hit to their enjoyment because a lot of people that play games like this, Umamusume, for example, is no different. Character collecting, right? Character collecting is very prevalent. That is the end game for most players, completing the Pokédex. And well, if you're trying to complete the Pokédex and the game isn't free play friendly, or you constantly have to save and pulling for banners is very few and far in between, especially with, remember, keep in mind, we have the accelerated in-between banner schedule for the global launch of this game. So the game and pulling in the game is going to feel worse than if you were playing on the JP side because of how fast the banners are going to be in between. So I'm not looking forward to that. And I got to say that is also going to make the enjoyment of the game definitely take a hit, but I will still enjoy the game for what it is, for however long that is, until I don't enjoy it anymore. But that's pretty much it. You get the gist. Umamusume Global seems to be not very free-to-play friendly. I mean, the high revenue definitely does make a ton of sense. Now, when you take into consideration how hard it is to get a pity in the game from what everyone is stating it to be. And I mean, if various content creators that have played on JP are telling you how bad it is, and even some of the players on Reddit are telling you how bad it is, Reddit usually sugarcoats a lot of things, is going to be pretty rough. And that's not even taken into consideration, as I mentioned before, that we also have the accelerated banner in between saving period for the game. So in between the banners, you're going to have less time. You're going to have more events, but you'll have less time to save in between the banners. So pooling is going to feel even more rough in this game, in the global side versus the JP, because of, again, how they're trying to catch us up to the JP side, which again, I mean, it's fine, right? Man, it's going to hurt. It's really going to hurt many free-to-play players, me included. I'm going to go watch some more of the anime and continue making the review video. I'll see you all in the next Umamusume video. Have a nice rest of your day or night. Peace.